You know, they're just trying to fund this for some fucking reason. So I dodge, and he completely wipes my fucking health bar. Okay, game, that makes fucking sense. Stupid retard logic. Fellas, all my fellas, we are back at it again with some more Dark Souls Remastered DLC. I was fighting the dragon last time, as I recall. I have to say, today was probably one of the wildest days of all time. Of all the time that has been. So I get up, I go gym, I did arms, and then I come back, I play piano, and then I have recce, and then I go to class, and my first class of the day was on Zoom because my teacher is not in the area for the first week for some reason, so you know, it's whatever. And then I had a psychology class. Never had a psychology class before, but the teacher seems pretty goofy, so I can work with it. I fucking hate the dodge in this godforsaken game. After, oh no, I do. After psychology, I went to my car to drop off some notebooks because I have a lot of notebooks, a lot of books and writing material this semester. So I dropped some off in my car, and as I was walking back, there was this group of fellas that were standing around one of the trees, and they were holding up signs and that stuff. I fucking hate the goddamn computer, stupid piece of shit. The antivirus fucking protection that keeps popping up. Awesome. This is not going to be fun. I'm already fucking irritated by the stupid dragon. And it sucks. But yeah, it was like this religious group that was just standing around. And they were holding up signs, and there was two ladies with them as well that were holding up signs. There was two guys and two girls. And the one fella, he seemed to be like the antagonist of the group. He was like yelling at people and stuff as they walked by. Really just stupid shit, in my opinion. Because, you know, if you're trying to make people aware of, like, you know, your religion and you want them to join you, you want to seem as, like, inviting as possible. And these people were the exact opposite of that. They were, like, calling people faggots and telling them that they were going to burn in hell and stuff like that. You know, just real stupid stuff, in my opinion. And there was this shorter Hispanic guy that was there. He was, like, wearing all black and stuff like that. Like, all black gloves, black sunglasses, a black beanie, like everything was black on this guy. For some reason, that was his fit. That was his getup. And, you know, I was talking to him, you know, just trying to get a feel for what was going on and what they were trying to do and stuff like that. And, you know, through talking to him, there was like no alluding to like trying to get people to join their religion. I mean, of course, that's like the goal, right? But like they were not being like open or inviting to people at all, so I don't really know why they were being so stupid. But you know, I was talking to him, and you know, he was talking to me, and he was like, "Are you any of those things on that sign?" And when he said that, he was like talking about, you know, his other companion that was holding up a sign, and there was a bunch of things on the sign. It was like, if you're gay, if you're a weak man, if you're the Pope, if you're trans person, if you're an atheist. There was like 20 different things. At the end, it said, "You will burn in hell." And I was like, possibly. And he's like, well, then you're gonna go to hell. And I was like, all right, awesome. And we were talking about sins, and he's like, if you've ever committed a sin, then you're going to hell. And that doesn't make any sense because, like, the whole religion is about, like, you know, Jesus dying for people's sins so that they can be forgiven, right? And so that they can go to hell. And he really wasn't making any sense. And he brought up, well, I didn't even tell this guy anything, but he said, like, if your dad drinks, like, he's going to go to hell. And I was like, well, I mean, my dad has a beer every once in a while. And he's like, oh, he's going to hell because he drinks. And I'm like, why is that? And he's like, well, because alcohol is a sin. And I'm like, well, what about Jesus? And he's like, what about him? And I was like, well, in the Bible, he turned water into wine, which is alcohol. And he's like, no, that's juice. It was called juice back then. That's what alcohol was. And I'm like, no, there was juice, and then there was wine, and you get wine through fermentation, which creates alcohol. That's how that happens. You know, I'm not the biggest, like, chemist in the world. I don't know, you know, all the steps, but, you know, it goes through, like, distillation or fermentation or something like that, and then, like, you know, that, which is what creates, like, alcohol in a drink, basically. You know, if you guys want to, like, you know, say the proper full thing down there, just let me know. But, you know, that's basically what wine is, right? What did he say after that? You know, that's another thing. Like, I dodged that attack at the right time, and I still get fucking hit by it. So stupid. And he just basically kept, like, saying, you know, that no, wine was different back then. You're wrong, because it was really juice. And I was just like, what the fuck ever. I'm just gonna give up on that point. And then we started, like, talking about other religions and stuff like that. And he's like, but there's only one real one. There's only one truth. Because my whole point was, well, there's tons of religions that have Jesus in them, you know, or some form of Jesus, right? And they have different names for this person. Sometimes they call him Jesus. Sometimes it's something else, right? This guy was basically like, no, they all have the same. Like there's only one truth. Those other ones don't matter, and those people will go to hell. And I just thought that was, like, a really stupid fucking, like, way to think about it, because it's like, how, like, all of these religious texts, like, say that they're right, say that they're the right religion, and so does yours. So, like, how could you possibly think in your mind that you're the only correct one, right? How could you? There's, like, hundreds of religions, and you think for some fucking reason that your religion, out of all the hundreds of religions, is the only one that has the entire truth. Like, that's so fucking stupid to think that way. Assuming there is a correct one to begin with. You know, and they all have their different reasons as to why they believe their religion is, like, the correct one or the right one. You know, I find that just so fucking moronic to think that way, you know? Because maybe parts of your religion are right, but yours didn't have, like, the full story, right? Like, what about the Indians that, like, you know, worship the different, like, spirits and stuff, you know? Because they've been around a long time before anyone, you know, any religion in the Middle East has been, you know, because we don't really know how far back the people in America have lived here, you know, because they came over from the Great Land Bridge that stretched from Alaska to Russia, you know, and that was a fucking hell of a long time ago. Hold on, let me clutch up now. That's alright, I'm doing pretty good this time, actually. Ooh, I can't believe I outran that. That was awesome. Okay, this is getting tough. Fuck, bro, fuck! Oh, if I would have hit those other attacks, I might have got him. Oh, that was the closest one yet. Holy, what a fucking run. And then, while we were having that conversation, the police showed up, and, you know, the dude I was talking to turned around and was just, like, looking at the cop while the cop was talking to the other fella. The fella that had the sign with, like, all the different, like, classifications that made you go to hell, basically. And the cop was pretty chill, right? He was just telling them, you know, don't do anything stupid, basically. And that, you know, we've got complaints about you guys, so, you know, just try to be respectful. Because, you know, of course, when you're calling people faggots and Jews, right, I mean, you're not really being that respectful. You know, because, you know, eventually that's going to lead to something happening. You know, someone might throw something at someone, or, you know, do something that, you know, they can't do it, which is illegal, or, you know, just something like that. The police were just, you know, trying to de-escalate everything. And the dude, you know, after the police officer was done talking, he was just kind of there watching, and some other police officers just showed up and were just, you know, hanging around. And the guy turns back to me, and I asked him the same question, you know, about religion. And he was like, well, you know, they all have their views, and that's okay. And it's like, you just, like, completely flipped the script from what you were saying to me, you know, 2 minutes ago. And I don't think it was the fucking police officer that changed your mind, so why the hell would you say that? And I was just basically like, well, you know, whatever, that's fine that you think that. And then I was like trying to figure out where these people were from, because the last semester, there was some religious people that showed up to the college, and they, you know, they were pretty nice. They tried to, like, invite me to go to their, you know, their Sunday, meeting and whatnot. And I was like, are you guys, do you guys have a church or anything like that around here? Because I figured, you know, it would be really interesting to go to this church and, like, to see how this, like, preacher preaches. So I didn't think any of them there were a preacher, you know, based on just how they were talking to people. You know, I had a sneaking suspicion that they didn't know how to talk to people. And he was like, no, we're not really from around here. We just kind of go to wherever. And I was like, okay, well, where are you guys, like, from? And he didn't give me an answer, so, you know, I found that kind of odd. And the more, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this guy, you know, he doesn't really... Oh my fucking Christ. Yeah, that was probably the worst time I could have ran out of stamina, to be honest. That was pretty retarded. I also don't know what that red thing is above my name that pops up after I... above my character after I get hit by that attack. But I was kind of starting to think this guy was a Fed for some reason, because I've heard, you know, stories about, you know, like, people joining these kinds of groups and trying to exacerbate things to, you know, make them do something and get the whole group arrested. So maybe, you know, there's something going on there, you know, like an undercover operation or something, or, you know, they're just trying to fund this for some fucking reason. So I dodge, and he completely wipes my fucking health bar. Okay, game, that makes fucking sense. Stupid retard logic. Holy. And, you know, another reason is just because of his whole getup. Like, he was entirely in black clothing, and he had black, like... I don't know what kind of boots they were, but they were some kind of black boots. He had black sunglasses in the middle of fucking January. Like, it makes no goddamn sense why you would dress like that. And then, you know, later on, I left, and then I came back because I had to go to a different class, and the group was still there. And they had amassed quite a large crowd. And he had some kind of saying on his chest. It was some kind of, like, religious shit. I don't know exactly what it was. I didn't get close enough to see, but, you know, there was quite a large crowd around him, and there was a decent amount of police officers there at that point. There was, like, 5 or so. Which is a pretty big thing for around here, because it didn't really, like, that stuff doesn't really happen. You know, the most you see is like one police officer just kind of hanging around or something if there's a, you know, event going on. And there was 5 at this, so, you know. And the crowd was definitely getting a little rowdy with these people, you know, rightfully so. They were acting fucking retarded, you know, the people holding up the signs and shit. But yeah, you know, that was kind of a weird thing that happened today. And my bestie, she texted me, and she's like, yo, that protest, I guess you could call it protest. She was like, the protest made the front page of the local newspaper. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. It's kind of fucking wild, you know? Because nothing like that ever really happens around here, right? I mean, like, the last people that were here last year, you know, they were holding up signs, but they weren't like trying to agitate anybody. They were just like there to talk and, you know, be respectful and, you know, just engage with people. So yeah, that was a wild event that happened at my school today. And I had my first biology lab today, so that was pretty cool. We only meet once a week. It's kind of interesting time frame, but it is for 3 hours a week, so it's from like 3 to 5. That fucking attack, bro. Oh, that was a bad run, bro. That was a bad run. Ugh. Yeah, but that was a interesting little day. And my partner for my biology class, she seems like a nice girl. I've got nothing against her. You know, she seems nice. But I was talking to her, and we were going over this little, this paper, and her, like, I thought I was retarded for a second because I saw her write her name down. And I was like, that can't possibly be it. And, like, I introduced myself to her, and she introduced herself to me. And her name is, I kid you not, gun to my head, pull the trigger if I'm lying, her name is Princess. The girl's name is Princess. That's not even a fucking joke. And, she comes from Philadelphia. And she seems like a nice girl, right? But holy, what a fucking name, right? I mean, I've literally never met anyone named that in my entire life. This is a tough boss. This is a very tough boss, I'm not gonna lie. Come on, bro! I fucking pressed the dodge button! Oh my god, and my dumb character fucking jumped. Oh, like, what even the fuck was that, bro? Fucking, my poise? Like... Oh my god. What the fuck is this AI on the goddamn dragon? Stop backing up, bro. Fucking Christ. I don't know if I can fucking continue tonight. Fellas, I fucking can't.